I think the biggest challenge for females in rugby is this kind of preconceived idea about what female athleticism is supposed to look like. I think that there are a lot of opportunities for boys and for men to be physical and to play sport that rewards people who aren't afraid of physicality, who lean into contact when they're confronted with it. And there aren't that many opportunities for women to play it. And I do not think that willingness to be physical or to look for contact or to solve a problem in a physical way is a gendered thing. I think that trait isn't split between men and women. Both men and women have it, but there are very few arenas that women have a chance to express that. I think rugby is a really powerful place that we can and be rewarded for it as well.
Jo, I think it's just exciting, if anything, because we've never really had this big of a platform, and being a professional footballer, you know, so many years back it wasn't a thing. So I think it's just really exciting for the women's game, and I think we all just relish in the chance to, you know, have that spotlight and be able to inspire the next generation. I think it's just, you know, to challenge us as professionals to continue being role models and to make sure that every little girl knows they can, you know, aspire to be whatever they want to be and have a dream no matter how big that they can achieve it. And I think we've just got to keep challenging ourselves to push that and to make sure that everyone believes that they can achieve anything they want.
I've never really felt that I ought to challenge it too much, because I've always felt that women can do jobs just as well as men anyway. Yes, I think that's true. I mean, after all, we have a queen on the throne, don't we? We've had women prime ministers recently, so we're all going forward, aren't we? Therefore, when I went to Norwich, and we were sitting at the lunch table, 8 of us all together, and he was sitting opposite me, and suddenly said to me, "So how did you become president of Bristol City?" And so I just looked at him, smiled, and said, "Sheer perseverance."
On the theme of choosing to challenge, sometimes I am known as sometimes being quite challenging myself in pushing back on queries and questions. Perhaps that's my journalistic nature. But something that particularly vexes me is the language around gender and gender bias. Nothing will infuriate me more than receiving an email or a letter that is to "Dear Sir" or "Dear Sirs," the automatic assumption that it is man in the decision-making role. I appreciate traditionally perhaps that has been the case, but things are changing and gradually changing, perhaps not fast enough for all of us. But I would always ask to challenge your language and think about your language, particularly with women.
I think saying something about it, flagging it up rather than even just an eye roll. I think I'm kind of labelled with precious, delicate, because I'm quite short, and a short guy would never be kind of given those labels. So I guess if I wanted to call someone out on it and say, "Would you say that if I was a guy?" I would be scared of the eye roll and "You're too sensitive" and "Are you a feminist?" And it's just easier sometimes to just let it go past, but I shouldn't. I should sometimes call people out on it. Speak up a bit more, because if we all don't challenge it, then nothing changes.
I would say always do what's right, know what's wrong, and stand up for anything that you feel that isn't as it should be. I would like to challenge sort of that, and I would also say that I firmly believe in that anyone can be or do anything that they want to. So I'm a firm believer in equality of opportunity. Everybody should be given the opportunity to get into whatever industry that may be with no barriers of entry.
I would challenge 2 things. One, the ability to not feel like you have to choose between career and family life as a female. I think a lot of women, when they're choosing to start a family, do either take a step back or they worry about how that's going to impact on their career. I know that I personally did. And I think that's really important that we have that as the norm, that actually you can go start a family, have children at home, even recently obviously do homeschooling, and have a career, and you have the opportunity to do both. And then I think the second thing that I would sort of challenge or implement is a bit more sort of women to women mentoring in business. So I think one of the key messages that I would have liked to have when I was younger and probably slightly less confident was that actually it's okay to be you. You don't have to be the same as everyone else. You don't have to dress the same or wear the same things or look the same. You can be unique, and that's okay. And I think the more strong female mentors that we have for women that are sort of starting out in business, I think that would be a really positive thing and a really positive step forward.
I guess I would like to challenge, not necessarily now in my career, because I feel that I have been very fortunate up until now, where I don't feel that I've been put in a box for being a woman, and I've almost, I guess, without knowing, challenged that myself. But certainly for senior roles in the future, board level, I feel that there is sometimes a divide between female and male. So certainly when I get to that level in the future in my career, that is definitely something that I would love to challenge. Sometimes the kids are like, oh, there's a female coach, there's a girl coach just like me, and then you feel some sort of like pride in that they are looking up to you and seeing that there is a girl coach there just like them and they can be just like you. So sometimes it does feel really good to see that.
I think I would challenge myself not to kind of fall into the stereotypes that people would maybe perceive. So when I've gone to other clubs, I think people see a small blonde lady and either assume that I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm there to make cups of tea. And I do sometimes find myself kind of giggling along rather than challenging. And I know what I'm doing and I'm an important member of the team. And sometimes I find myself falling by the wayside. So yeah, I think I challenge myself to stand tall and not take that type of behaviour. The professionalism of Suze as well has kind of led the men above her to show her respect, which in turn has kind of paved the way for me, I suppose.
I would say just be yourself. I would challenge those stereotypes of women in football, which is changing now. But I've been in the job sort of many years, and in the beginning there was a lot of women that were like that, and I look at them now and I think, were you just emulating what you thought you had to be, and you weren't actually being yourself? It's been a hard journey to try and be myself and to make people listen to me. I feel that sometimes my voice isn't heard and it's really difficult, but I've discovered that in saying something not so much, you can have as much impact as if you shout and scream and raise your voice, etc. I think I would just like to challenge those stereotypes really, and just say to anyone, no matter who you are, what your personality is, how you dress, what your politics are, there's a role in sport for you, because we want that diversity to come in, and the future generations to have all that diversity and to come in and challenge those ideas that are quite deep-rooted in football.
Well, yeah, I've been here quite a while now. I started in 1998, obviously come in and back full-time and part-time basis with having the children. I would say the environment's changed very much from when I first started. Things used to be quite a bit more difficult back in the early days. So when I was travelling away with the teams, for example, I always remember when we went to play Swansea away, there was no women's changing room. There was no women's toilet, so I remember Sean Taylor had to prop the door open for me to get changed in the men's single toilet, which was quite interesting. It's funny actually, because there's one thing that everyone at the training ground always says to me. I'm very much of like when they call you ladies, and I'm like, no, it's women. So now I think whenever they go to say that, they look at me and then they say, no, women, it's the women. And I was like, yeah, good for you. But it's things like, the changing facilities and the toilet facilities up at the new training ground, that, it's a brilliant step forward for us. We've got all in together, and I think it'll be great.
I just wanted to say that I want to challenge women to love themselves more and appreciate themselves more, and that we have so many inspiring and powerful women all around us, and they have to be recognized, and that recognition starts within ourselves first. And that's why I think we need to join to choose to challenge on 8th of March, and we can make a big difference all together as a group or individually.